All right, we're going to go over some things that are helpful in creating magazine covers. And first off, going to just address the character panel. And I'm going to go quickly, so you may have to pause and rewind if necessary. So we're looking here at this heading. These are, of course, just normal standard text up here. We can tell it's text because there's a little T right there. I'm going to make some modifications to the text, and we're going to raise this letter and drop this letter. And remember, text sits on an imaginary line, which we can actually see in Photoshop. That's called the baseline. If we do a positive baseline shift, then it floats the letter up. If we do a negative baseline shift, then it drops the letter down below the baseline. So that's the first thing we're going to do here. The other thing I wanted to remind you of is how to modify the leading, which is like line spacing. And so here we can see there's kind of a gap between each of these lines. So I'm going to choose that box, and it's easiest to just click the layer. So we'll find that one. Here's the layer. And then we'll modify the line spacing, or leading as it is called. And here on the leading, it's set to auto automatically. If you pick another number, you can see what that looks like. There's 24. I'm just going to kind of drag and let go a little bit here and there until I get it to a size I like. And 30 or 31 seems to be good. Then we want to make this one matched because they should be probably spaced the same. So I'm going to click on this one and just make that same change. And again, 30 or 31 seems to suffice for this one. Now, one issue that I see with this text box is, and this is done automatically in Photoshop, is it's put in hyphens for those compound words there, growing or daughter or whatever. It's gone ahead and put hyphens in there for us on our multisyllabic words. And that's just the default. So if you go to the paragraph tab, now that sits there with the character tab if you're using this layout, which I'm using the workspace. It's called design for this. Under paragraph, you're just going to uncheck hyphenate. And again, you have to be on the box. I'm clicked on Loving Life right now, so I'm going to click on the proper box and hit that. And then notice it's going to reflow the box. Unfortunately, this box is still not big enough. So my two options would be to either make my font smaller or make my box bigger. Now, you don't want to Control T and make your box bigger. That's not going to solve your problem at all. Matter of fact, that's going to happen. If you need to enlarge a text box that's a paragraph box, you must choose your text tool and click in there. And then you're going to grab a hold of the box from that bottom right hand corner. And then you can reflow the box as such. All right, so that's just modifying a few little character things. And again, if your character panel is not visible, when you have your type tool, you can click it here to toggle it on or off, or it's part of the design workspace. Next thing we're going to do is kind of a cool technique here. We're going to make part of these letters one color and part a different color, but not at a common break. Now we could actually highlight right now if I wanted these to be red and this to be black. But what if I wanted these to be red and half of my letter D? Well, that can't happen automatically. As a matter of fact, we can't really do that at all until we make some modifications to this layer and make it not be a text layer. That's because we can't do certain things if things are text layers. For instance, I can't erase on this layer. If I try, I get the big no sign, or it's going to yell at me and it's going to say, hey, I have to rasterize to do this. So you don't want Photoshop to rasterize for you unless you want it to rasterize. But when you do rasterize, you can no longer treat this as type. It won't have a T, and you won't be able to modify anything on the character or paragraph panels. So you do have to think long and hard, because if you have a misspelling, you're out of luck. Or if you need to change something else, you're out of luck here. So we're going to rasterize. And then what I'm going to do, you can see this rasterized. I'm going to take an eraser, and I've already got this preset. I'm on my eraser tool, and I'm just choosing one of these kind of crunchy looking erasers here. I'm just going to erase up on this letter A a little bit, just to kind of make it look a little bit worn. It's been bit into a little bit. Okay, so I've done that. Now I can't fix this because now I can no longer use these tools because this isn't text. I mean, I can change these numbers, but it won't do anything. So if I wanted to scoot those letters over, I could pick them up. I could try to magic wand them, or I'm just going to be kind of a cheater here and use my lasso. I'm just going to lasso around these letters a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect because there's nothing else on the layer. And take my move tool, just scoot these over a little bit. Okay, and Control D. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the front half of this, including part of the D, to make a color change to. And so to do that, you can choose any tool. I'm going to use a polygon lasso, and I'm just going to kind of cut this D in half with my polygon lasso right there. And then choose whatever part you want to select. So I'm just going to kind of go out here and select that part. And then you can take your paint bucket and fill in those letters. And it will only fill in that front part. Okay, so pretty simple there, nothing too complicated. And then we can press Control D, and now we've got that cool looking effect there for that. So again, we can only do the paint bucket because we rasterized text. Otherwise, that's not an option. All right, let's move on. Let's move on and talk about the pen tool for a minute. The pen tool works kind of like the polygon lasso. It's a click, let go kind of tool. If you're clicked on the first option of the pen tool, it will draw shapes. So if I want to come down to my bottom corner and draw a right triangle, I can click, let go, click, let go, click, let go, and then you want to close it back up by coming back to the beginning. If you ever need to make changes to any shapes or anything drawn with the pen tool, you click underneath your type tool and choose the white direct selection. And then you can click on your shape and you can move these around until you get them where they need to be. So if something's not lined up perfectly, you can fix it later on. You're not stuck with it the way it was drawn. And that's with really any shape. You can modify those paths. So once I've got my triangle on there, I'm good to go there. But now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to draw what's called a path, and we're going to attach words to the path. Now, I will tell you too, if you're drawing shapes, and we're going to go ahead and draw 2 more shapes because we need to. If you're drawing shapes, don't be clicked on a shape layer, because for whatever reason, when you're clicked on a shape layer and you draw shapes, sometimes they get hooked together. So I like to click off the shape before I draw a new shape. We're going to go ahead and draw 2 circles that are just bigger than my head. We're going to put them over here. We're going to draw 1 circle, so hold Shift, because a circle, not an oval. And then we'll choose this one, hold down Alt and drag to create that second circle so that we have all 3 here, the triangle and the 2 circles. We're going to use that in a minute. Now, so these are all shapes, and that's because whenever we are creating this, we have it set on the first one, which is called a shape. There's also what's called a path. So a path is the second option here. And again, I'm going to click off of these shapes and click up here at the top somewhere on some other rasterized type layer. A path, well, let's just do, I'm going to draw like an oval here that covers part of the top of my head, like right there. I'm lining that up with the path on my head. See, this is a path. It didn't fill in with any color. It's actually not even there. It's not on a layer. You can see it in the paths panel. You can see that I have a circle drawn in there. But a path is something we can attach text to. So here you can see my path, and if I have a path, I can take that text tool and I can point to the path, and you get a cursor with a little line through it. It's kind of hard to see, but you get a cursor with a line through it, and then you can type on that path. So I'll just choose some sort of random fonts here. I'm going to click, and now I'm on the path. Okay, and then it follows that curvature. Now again, the path isn't really there. It shows up when you click on that type layer, but it goes away when you're not clicked on it, and it certainly doesn't print or anything. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to draw a path using the pen tool on the curvature here of my arm. Now this is kind of going to be more of a complex path. So again, be clicked on just some random layer that's not text or shape. And we're going to use the pen tool, but not on shapes, because we don't want to draw a shape here. We just want to draw a path so we can hook words on it. So you click on paths. You're going to click here to start your path, and then you're going to click on the second one, but don't let go of the mouse. Okay, so I'm going to click but not let go of my mouse, and I'm going to drag. That creates an angle, like this funny little anchor that has curvature to it. Okay, so we're just going to follow the curve lightly there, slightly, and then we're going to come up here. Now this is not going to curve properly, but I'll show you how to fix it. So I'm just going to line up with the edge. Okay, now we're going to switch to that white arrow. Now the white arrow can allow you to move your point. So I can move this point down, or I can move this point in or up or whatever. And you can also click on the point in the middle and move these lines. However, they're going to function kind of like a seesaw. When you move one, you move the other. So I'm going to line this side up good. And then I'm going to point to this side, and you have to disconnect the seesaw. So to break the seesaw, you're going to hold down the Alt key while you're pointed to this, and it's going to put a plus sign next to the white arrow, and you're going to click and drag up, and then when you get the angle up there, then you can let go, and then let go of the Alt key. Hold down that Alt key that whole time. Now they're disconnected, so I can move this one without messing the other one up. Okay, cool. So we've got that. Then we're going to come here and we can choose our type tool. I like to click in the middle of the path, and I like to set my path on center. Now be careful that you're not in a text box, because if I'm clicked on my head text box right now, I'm going to center my head text box. So always again be on just a rasterized layer. So I'm going to come up here and hit center, and I'm going to click in the center-ish of this path, and then I can start typing. All right, now that white arrow tool will do different things once you have text on a path. If you point out here in kind of just the space on the edges of your path, you're going to get an arrow. And that arrow is going to let you move the either beginning or ending point of your path. Okay, like that. You can move those around. You can also point to the middle of the path, and you're going to get a flip-floppy arrow, which if you drag across the path, flips it. So it flips it upside down. So if for some reason like you type some words on a path and they're getting cut off, like you can't see them all, like the word stuff is cut off right now, I know I just need to float out here somewhere and start pulling this edge out. There's little white dots that turn black whenever you click off of them that show you kind of where those edges of the path are. And then of course you might need to go in and click, like between is and fun. I might want to kern that a little bit to get that F out of that corner or something like that. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Our next little thing here is we're going to clip these pictures into these shapes. So we've already got the shapes drawn. I'm going to position the pictures kind of where I want them to be. So that one here with his head sticking out a little bit, and then this one here, I probably need to size this picture down. You can always size it down later, but I'm going to size it down just a little bit so that our heads are both going to fit in there, and hit enter. Now the way that these work, I'm going to undock my layers panel because it is easier to do this, is you've got to put the appropriate shape. So this is the shape of me and my dad, so baby Tanya. So this goes to baby Tanya. So baby Tanya has to be put above baby Tanya's shape. So now I can't see the shape anymore. And then you right click and clipping mask it into the shape. So same story here with Dad and Tanya. I have to find the other shape. There it is. Move Dad and Tanya right above the shape and then clip them in. Now, if you were going to make his head pop out the top of the shape, for example, then you need to unclip it temporarily. Take your quick selection or something and just select roughly the part that's going to hang out. It doesn't have to be, it can be like more than what's going to hang out. That's okay. But you know, roughly the part that's going to hang out. And then you're going to layer via copy. So you have the head. And the head's not going to get clipped in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to clip Dad and Tanya in, but the head sticks out. Isn't that cool? And now if you wanted to put a stroke around these, be careful and not to stroke the wrong thing. So you want to stroke the actual shape, not the person, okay? Because the person is inside the shape. So we would click on the shape, we'd go over here to stroke, and we would stroke the actual shape. So there's one of them. That's the baby one. You can't see it right now. And then here's the other one. All right, and then we get that cool effect, and you do see that a lot on magazines where there's like something sort of hanging out of the picture, and you get that neat little look there. So basically, these are a lot of the things that you would use in preparation of a magazine cover in Photoshop. Of course, there's many more as well, but these are kind of some really common ones. Just remember, with that pen tool, if you're going to modify an angle, you're going to use the white direct selection tool. And once you have your path, you're going to have to look for those edges and get those big fat arrows to modify the beginning or the ends of the path. Now, for some reason, you can't get a hold of all your words. Like, I'll just make these too big. If you can't get a hold of all your words because they're too big, when you're clicked in a text box to select all the text that you've typed, even the one that you can't see in that text box, while you're clicked in, you press Control A. And then you can start sizing down until all your words show up and fit. Sometimes I don't know exactly what font size I need when I'm drawing on a path because you just don't know for sure. So that's kind of the way to check that. So anyway, I hope this helps you out with some of the cool things that you can do on a magazine using Photoshop.